Welcome, everyone, to Healthcare Leadership Live. I am your host, Mike Lyons, an HR service provider focused on healthcare, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you're joining us here today. Whether you're tuning into the podcast or joining the live stream, you're in the right place. If you're a leader in a small or growing healthcare business that's hungry for actionable tips to propel your growth. In today's show, I'm blessed to be visited by Brandi Musgrave. She is a strategic growth consultant that helps healthcare practices. So we're going to dive into the topic of marketing here today. And who knows, we may get into other stuff. But as always, the show is sponsored by Seasoned Advice HR Services, where I focus on helping small and medium-sized healthcare businesses to retain employees better and get better results from your people. So with that, let's start the show. So welcome, Brandi, to Healthcare Leadership Live.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. That is definitely a great introduction there. Happy to be on your show. And as always, I'm always a fan of you and what you do. And you always give great advice to practices. So happy to be able to be a part of that. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I feel awesome with that right there too. Thank you. So just real briefly, Brandi, what kind of work do you do in healthcare, and, how do you help and who do you help?
So I guess if I could take a step back and give you a little bit of background on myself, because I think that helps a lot for business or for practices in itself. I worked in a practice for 10 years and every aspect that you do to help a practice grow. And as you know, it doesn't matter what your title is, you do what you do to make the practice grow and thrive. And that was what I did. And then I moved on to a marketing aspect, so outside the company. And the same, my mindset stayed the same, where it doesn't matter what you're supposed to do for that practice, but you look at it like that practice may say, I want marketing, but let's look at what is going to make my practice grow. And some of it's not marketing related. Sometimes it's internally. Sometimes how I'm answering my phones, or, what type of nurturing I'm giving to my elective surgery leads, or am I touching the people that have no-showed or canceled, or do we just let them die? There's different things that you can do just to give that little touches in there. And so I've done that over the last 14, 15 years. And I continue to love it. I do it across the nation with different practices, different scopes, and I love it. I love helping them grow and make that next connection with the new either referral practices or patients themselves.
Well, we know that practices want to grow, right? They need help with that, and there's just increasing pressure on revenue for sure. So that sounds like a valuable service. I'm kind of curious. So I'm a psychology kind of guy. I like to get into people's heads a little bit. So why do you think you like to do that? What does it say about you that you love to do this type of work?
I think at the end of the day, I would say I'm a problem solver, and my husband would say it's like the negative of me. It's a positive and the negative. Okay. I'm always looking to solve someone's problems, and some people can't have their problems solved, but I'm always looking to try and
we won't go there.
Yeah, right. But it's true. It's like I constantly am looking like, how can I solve their problems? And it might not be something I can do, but if I have a colleague, a vendor I've worked with in the past that I like thoroughly believe in, or something I've seen in another practice, I'll bring it to you. And most times I don't charge for that service. It's giving you the knowledge of what I know. Mm-hmm. But of course, if you want to help me to have me help, put it in place for you, I can do that too. But most of the times I want to help practices.
Yeah. Well, I think probably that desire to help is what drives folks to get into consulting work. And that's it. That's it right there. I mean, if you're not here to help, healthcare is a service profession. Whether you're a consultant or a technician or a call center agent, you're here to help. And so I want to talk about marketing here and grow. And that kind of encompasses a lot of things. So But what are some things that if there's a clinic leader listening or someone in healthcare and they want to grow, what are two or three kind of basic things that they need to be doing right and they need to be thinking about?
Good question. So I think the very first thing that I always look at, and they should look at, is your internal workings. So how many people are you missing, right? So look at the phone calls coming in. How many people are missing on an actual phone call? Are they going to voicemail? Are they being missed there? In terms of, when you actually do get a phone call, how are they being handled? Are they being converted? And if they are on a phone call, if they're not ready to make that appointment, what are you offering as that next step? So I know that's a lot in that first, but that gives you kind of a breadth of what am I missing there? And then the other part of the what I'm missing, what am I missing for the B component would be people who come in for those appointments and they don't schedule for surgery. What do you do? What type of follow-up do you do? What do you do for them? Do you call them? Do you follow up with them? I know a lot of people are in the mindset of, well, I'll call them once, and if they haven't done anything, then they're not interested. If they haven't followed up with me, they're not interested. Well, that's not the case, right? Because think of yourself when you are doing something. Most of the time when you're doing research, you're getting all these responses. You're busy throughout your day. It might be 2 or 3 days later that you're actually able to follow up with people, and you've forgotten about the phone calls or the emails or what you got like 3 days ago, right? So be consistent and have a protocol of when you're sending emails or text messages or doing phone calls, so that you're connecting with those individuals for the time when it's right for them. And they'll tell you when they're not interested.
So it sounds like, capturing those I kind of think of those as prospects or leads, right? Like these are potential folks that want help, right? They've indicated somehow that they want help with a procedure or a solution that they're trying to get solved.
Right.
Are there any of these tips? Like, does this pertain to ophthalmology? A lot of folks that watch my content are interested in ophthalmology specifically. Does this apply in ophthalmology? And are there other unique marketing tips that folks in ophthalmology maybe want to think about when it comes to?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that was just like number one of what people should think about, but that definitely can be ophthalmology. But mainly you're thinking of any elective procedures that you have out there. So your med spas, your aesthetics, your plastic surgery, anything that people don't use, like, let's say, medical insurance for. And that's what this is for. Like, even people who are looking for those, even routine procedures, they're still looking to make sure that who they're looking to go to is a reputable person, right? So looking to make sure that your online presence is good.
Go ahead.
That goes into like the reviews that you have. Your website, does it represent who you are and what you do? So if you don't have everything that you do on your website, that's the first thing that you should look at, right? So because people are looking to say, okay, I'm referred to you for this, but you don't offer that procedure, I think I don't want to go to that doctor because it doesn't look like he offers it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, what I've heard a lot lately is people want to do, and they do a lot of research ahead of time before they ever reach out. They want to understand. And I know as a patient, I do that. I want to look at this doctor. I want to know who they are. I want to look at the reviews. I want to see, what procedures do they do? If we're talking plastic surgery or derm or something like that, let me see before and afters and stuff like that,
Or testimonials, even if it's not something like a visual change that you can see, they want to hear testimonials of what patients have went through.
Yeah. So this is kind of making my mind go towards social media. I know a doctor, he's a plastic surgeon, and he is constantly doing TikTok lives, Dr. Ryan Kuvion in Houston, he's constantly on TikTok live and he's answering questions about medical procedures and cosmetic procedures and things. And people just have a constant stream of questions about it. And I don't know what kind of traction that he's getting, but there are a lot of dermatologists, a lot of ophthalmologists and folks on social media platforms like TikTok. Do you see a trend of that going upward? Do you think patients are getting information that way?
Really good question. So the big thing is that part of a patient or a person choosing a practice or a physician is about having the trust factor, right? Mm-hmm. And so part of that trust factor is built by the credibility they build online. It used to be who you see in the community, like who do I see at my local events? And we're bigger communities now, and so we have to look bigger. And so yes, you still need to be part of that community, but that online credibility is huge. And so I'm not talking about, having lots of social posts out there, right? Like generic posts about what you do and posting back to your website, but mixing in with that, but who you are, that will bring your personality out as a practice and who you are as a doctor, because that's who practices want to know or patients want to know before they do business, because they're looking to connect with you. It's almost like choosing a family member, if you will. You're dating, if you will, because most of these eye procedures, they're looking to have a relationship with you for a long period of time, especially those older generations. They're going to have cataract surgery coming up. They're going to have glaucoma. They're going to have, different procedures coming up that they want to have that routine person that they can go to.
That relationship is key. And there's nothing more intimate than your body, right? It's your health. It's your well-being. Maybe it's your skin, your eyes, right, your nervous system. Trust. You use that word trust. That's huge. Mm-hmm. That's huge. So how do practices cultivate more? We've kind of talked about the presence online. How do they cultivate trust maybe when the patient is contacting the office?
So I think you have to take a step back from them even contacting the office and learning of that process of what they go through for the discovery period, if you will. Mm. And so if you take a step back even further, most people would go like Yellow Pages. Let's figure out who I want to talk to. I'll call them. And then, that's all it was. Now, the way it is now is they're going to look at your social pages and your review pages, then your website. And sometimes it'll be website and then back to review and social pages before they call you. So those three components need to be top notch. Like you need to talk, like your website, for example, needs to not only be just an educational tool, but it needs to talk more from the user standpoint. Like how am I going to be serviced by you? How are you going to help me feel good? How are you going to help me see better? Like, talk through that persona coming from the other end. And then, even looking at even the contact us page is probably like the number 2 page that people go to in their website. And, most people are going to the contact us page because they're looking for the phone number, but don't just put like the contact information.
Yeah.
Put an informational thing of why should you do business with us, essentially. Like, what are my selling points? Put some testimonials in there. I mean, those are really great things to help elevate who you are and add that credibility so that patient is left thinking, well, why wouldn't I want to contact you? Instead of saying, I'm going to write down the phone number, I'll call them back later, or I'm going to bookmark this page and I'll think about it. Don't give them that thought and take it that step further. And then also look at like your review pages and your social pages, make sure it replicates who you are. If it's review, make sure that you're responding to the reviews that are coming through. Number one, positive or negative. there's a lot of times that I'm talking with practices and they're like, oh, it's a negative review. We didn't feel like it was good for our practice, so I didn't do anything.
Mm.
Well, think of it as a person looking at that business, and that doesn't sit well, right? There's no response to what happened there, right? So it's okay to have negative reviews. It's how you respond to them. So that's a big component, is getting new reviews and then making sure we're responding to the reviews that are out there.
Yeah, I saw that, and I see that in the human resources space, because practices get reviewed by their employees also.
Yes.
And so I have on many occasions responded to employee reviews. Sometimes they're negative. Sometimes, and you've got to show empathy. You've got to show concern and not so much defend or explain, but actually, that's a great question for you. What is a kind of a good method or template when you're handling a negative complaint that comes in? Not a complaint, but a review.
So I think the big thing to consider is that you want to make sure you're HIPAA compliant. They're not putting the patient or the person's information in there.
Right.
So don't put names at all, or about the procedure that they're in for, or the actual complaint that they're talking about. So be basic a little bit, to where it's like, but also be grounded and humble, if you will. I'm so sorry that you've experienced this. I would love to be able to resolve this with you. Please contact us and give the phone number where they can contact, and we'd love to discuss it further.
Yeah, you've got to be able to offer that outreach. I like to keep things short and simple, and that's sounds like that's your philosophy.
Yeah.
As well.
Okay. Well, you have to be careful with the whole HR and the HIPAA. You have to be careful with what you're doing.
Yeah, you can't say too much. Oh, hey, Mr. Jones, that procedure, that XYZ procedure you had, this is how it works. And this is, no, we don't want to do that. That's not.
The procedure you were in for did not call for us to bill for this certain amount.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's a whole new can of worms right there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I actually had a practice that had that recently, and I was like, oh, we should not be responding to those.
No, I love this idea that providers, physicians, they should show who they are, right, in social media. Show a little bit of their personality.
Show the personality. Show even like fun facts. Like on your About Us page, show some fun facts about you. And it could be simple things about, like, I love to play on my off time. I like to play golf and go hiking with my kids, or, I've got a golden retriever, different things, little things, because that helps tie that person together with the patient that's coming in too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It helps you feel more comfortable with that person. Okay. So the patient has kind of done their research. They've seen some good reviews. They like the messaging. What's maybe the next step in that process, and how can a clinic maximize their opportunity there?
So laying the scene. So that patient said, hey, I'm ready. Right. So the next step is for them, obviously, either to make a phone call or to do some web form to the practice. Ultimately, they're looking for a phone call because that usually leads to an appointment. So for the practice, you've got two things, or actually three things. How are you handling the web leads as they come through? Making sure that you're handling those quickly and you're able to get them to that next step. And anytime a web lead comes through, always make sure that someone from your practice is calling them, because that's so important. I don't care if you do an email out to them, but make sure you're doing a phone call, because that's personal. And then if they give you a phone number, try and text it if you have that capability. And if you have an online scheduling capability, put that in the link in your text, because again, we want to eliminate the amount of barriers for those patients to take scheduling with your practice. So, and that goes with whether they make an appointment, they're calling your practice, whatever type that they're doing, make it easy for them. So if you're doing a phone call into the practice, look at your recordings and see how people are handling your phones. And is it representing who you are? Are they able to answer the phone call well? Are they able to, address the questions that they're being asked? And are they leading to scheduling? Or if they're not scheduling, are they capturing the lead information so that they can someone can follow up with them at a later time? And then, so
I can sense that, and I've seen this in the practices that I've been a part of, that technology plays or can play a really helpful role with that. And one thing that where my mind is going, because I'm a huge fan of web chat, and I think we're headed in a direction, and I'm a Gen Xer, but I think the younger people get, the less they want to deal with a live person, is my sense. I'd be curious on your take with that.
Totally.
But
absolutely. And there's a lot of practices that I've worked with that we've incorporated something like, like a live chat or a chat feature, or even, the online scheduler is key, because when they get to that point, they don't want to spend 5 minutes on the phone.
Yeah.
They're ready. They were ready 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. Everything else is just delaying the process.
Yep. And in that generation, you don't want to frustrate them because they're easily able to jump and go to the next practice.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have to feel just my sense of it. I'm not a finance person, but the ROI on that stuff is probably out of this world, because the cost is, whatever the cost is, what the cost is, but converting into procedures and booking time with the providers, that's hugely valuable.
Oh, it absolutely is. Depending on the service you use, most of the patient portals anymore have some scheduling capability. It's just getting the practices on board with putting it on their website and having that access available. There's other programs that are out there, obviously, and there's other tools that are out there to help to increase conversions. But, first and foremost, I don't like to have additional sources out there if we don't need it. If you already have it in store with your practice, if you have a patient portal that has it, let's just utilize what services you have and bring more patients to you.
Yeah, use the tools you have. A lot of times, I've seen this in the human resources side of things. We're not utilizing the tools that we're already paying for. There's functionality that is at your disposal that you're not taking advantage of. Exactly.
Yeah, there's so many times that you talk to a practice like, oh, I signed up for this service, and I'm doing it. The service does, like, let's say 50 different things, and I'm doing 5 of them, or I'm utilizing for 5 different services, but because they haven't had the time to implement the other 45. And that's so common with practices.
Yeah.
They see what they need and they sign up for the service that they need, but they don't look at what the other options would be available to help them throughout their day-to-day.
And I imagine that's where a person like you could step in and say, hey, look, I can help assess what you're doing and set you on a path where you're maximizing more of the tools you had, or maybe add the right strategic tools. And now you've got some ROI coming from that now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I do both looking at the systems that you have and seeing what you're using, what you're not using, and what do you need to use within your practice. And then also look at what are the overall goals, and are there other missed opportunities that you have within the practice. So yes.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, I'm into people. I'm into people management and all that good stuff. So, we've talked about technology. We've talked about social media. And so now my mind is kind of going towards the human side of things. And so what can a healthcare leader do when it comes to their people to help, improve conversions, improve that, retention of that potential discretionary dollar, right? That's out there. Because it seems like we're kind of talking about that discretionary dollar, right? What in terms of people can be done?
So I think the big thing is to assess who you currently have in the positions and see, and that comes with almost doing almost like a secret shop, or if you have recordings, listening to the recordings like on the phones, but not necessarily only phones, but doing a shadow throughout the practice for those elective procedures, if you will, and see how do people talk about those procedures, like, the technicians, the counselors, the doctors, is it the right team that's doing the elective procedure process there, right? And then sometimes when you even doing the analysis, you're going to be like, oh, bingo, that person, either it's an off day or there's something going on and that person shouldn't be there. So you do another analysis again, just to confirm, is it an off day, something going on, or do we need to think about replacing this individual in that area?
Yeah, people are so key, right? So having the right person, having the right training and coaching, having feedback in place, and leadership and accessibility, and tools and all that stuff. My mind was going in a different direction now. That's how my brain works.
That's okay.
And I was thinking about clinical research, because clinical research is very related to kind of what we're talking about in that discretionary bucket, because a patient doesn't have to sign up for a study. They could just continue to be, come in for my retinal exams or whatever. And so in a way, the clinical study enrollment is also like a discretionary event. And so research recruitment is similar in that you've got to probably like follow up and capture those people and stuff like that. That's what I've seen, at least in the retina world. Have you ever seen research folks try to capitalize on some of this thinking and technology and all that stuff?
So a little bit, and I'll take it back a little bit further here. So you're right. Yes. So your clinical study individuals are very, very similar to elective surgery components, because they could certainly go in the direction of, this is covered, this is what my doctor says I should use, I don't have to do anything else, right? They go along that path. Or do I try something new? It's not been done before, not really sure what's going to happen, but I'm going to try it because, I'm looking for a good result, and this is showing that it might be a good result, right? Same thing with electives, LASIK, premium cataract surgery, your med spas, your, any of the elective, like aesthetic procedures, things like that. When we look at the way that you approach those individuals, it's similar. When we look at like the amount of touches that you need to do with those individuals, like the patients, before they're ready to come to you, it's pretty similar. It's usually 8 to 12 touches from someone going from, hey, I'm interested in learning about you, to I'm ready to move forward with you. And that doesn't mean I'm doing a procedure with you. It means I'm ready to engage with you. It might be, I'm calling you, I'm coming into the practice. But that means that those phone calls and those people coming into the practice, those are important for us to make sure that we're giving the best experience possible, and we're doing everything we can to capture those individuals.
That's a lot of touch points.
I know a lot.
You've got to be on your game is what I'm getting from that. Let's see here. I know another thing that's key in some practices is the referrals from other doctors. Do the things we're talking about all apply there? And if so, maybe which ones are more important or less important? And are there other things that we haven't talked about to try to garner those referrals for those specialist doctors.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all somewhat similar, just making sure that you're not just setting it and forgetting it, if you will. So once you've made that referral relationship, whether it's a OD, MD, and it might be a corporate practice or corporate business down the street that's going to send their employees to you as their primary person to go to. Doesn't matter what it is. As soon as you set that, you need to make sure that, okay, in a month or whatever time period, I'm going to go back and I'm going to follow up with them and make sure that they remember me and remember to send patients to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then in maybe 2 months, set the protocol of how often you need to go and visit them, but you need to do different little touch bases. And you don't have to drop things off, like a basket of donuts every time you go. But make sure that you're doing something that's a little bit different every time you go, just to make sure that they don't get immune to you showing up. It's Brandi. No big deal.
Yeah, she always shows up all the time.
She always shows up, but make it something where they're excited to see you. So if you are bringing something, bring something that the staff wants, because they they sell it too.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a major role, right, in the relationship between clinics, I would think.
Yeah, like bagels one day, and then next time, I'm bringing I don't know, where it's end of day, we're bringing some type of cocktail, like it's wine hour for them for the end of the day, something like that, something fun.
Bagels and cocktails. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So we had a comment come in here on the live, and so that's one of the cool things about recording this show live is we can interact with an audience. So Kristen Meister commented and said, Hi, Kristen out there. She said, what do you do with practices who have a high staff turnover at the front desk or call center? Now, I could talk about this from an HR standpoint, but I think from a marketing standpoint, we've been talking about the, staff, the importance of staff and conversions and marketing and holding on to those leads and patients and stuff. And that can definitely turnover can have a huge impact on all that. So I don't know, what comes to mind for you in response?
Well, my big thing is, again, monitor what's going on at the front desk and your staff, because sometimes so you can learn whether or not they're overworked just by listening to their calls. And, if they're short with the people on the phones, if they're not having, if they're having troubles making those, like they're making those patients happy, if they've got a lot of disgruntled patients, it's going to make them very unhappy to even be on the phones. So sometimes when you do the initial analysis, you can find out, do I have the staff in the right places? And that might help your turnover right there. And then the other thing is do I have enough staff that are covering this area? Because sometimes they're just taking on too much work and they want to just leave because it's too much for them.
I've definitely seen that.
I'm interested to see what you say, Mike, though, because this is your world.
For sure. Well, there could be so many things. There are a lot of things that feed into staff retention, right? I always try to start with who you're putting in the role. We talked about that a little bit earlier, you and I. And are you selecting the right folks? And a call center and a front desk, they're different things. So, but they both tend to be high volume and they tend to be high pressure.
Right.
And it's not just about smiling and looking cute, as I've heard some people say. It's way more than that. It's about knowing the job. In fact, in my opinion, the call center kind of has to know everything about everything, at least know a little bit about everything. And so training is key. You've got to, I could go on and on, but I think hiring and training are really key in those particular roles.
You're absolutely right. I think that, having the resources, like, for example, like you need to know enough, like what you said, enough about everything to be able to answer the basic questions. One of my biggest pet peeves is like someone that a practice that I call, and you're constantly being put on hold because they need to ask someone a question about what you just asked about. And so there should be, I mean, there's resources that are out there, right? So let's make sure that we're utilizing them or training our staff so that we're keeping them, because that adds frustration to the employee too.
I wonder if there is an opportunity for AI to play a role here, because what I'm picturing is an artificial intelligence language model where you can ask it questions on the fly. And if I'm on the call center and I can say, hey, what am I supposed to do in this situation? And it will boom. Hey, Dr. Smith is available at this time, and he does this and this procedure. Anyway, that's one possibility. And there's also AI-informed call center agents as well. I've heard some positive things about that. Not advocating necessarily for that, but that's something that's out there.
Right.
Kristen, thanks for the comment and the question. If anyone else has a question or a comment, we'd love to hear it. And so we've got a little bit more time for that. If you do have a question, one thing I've heard about a lot in the ophthalmology space lately, and I'm sure this applies to med spas and derm and stuff like that, but articulating your offering in a certain way that's not overly technical or confusing. So how you position and explain things. Have you seen that in the work you've done?
So that's been an ongoing thing. So if you think of any type of medical procedures out there and you think of yourself as an average individual, right? You don't know what you don't know. And you have to think of yourself when you're going into one of those practices that, what is this? How is it going to help me? Why is it going to benefit me? And what are my options? Like put it to the basics, right? Put it back to, what even is this procedure? Take laser hair removal. Yes, it's a laser that's going to remove hair, but let's, so, I mean, that's kind of the basic there, but, let's talk about like, what does it do and how is it going to help me and who is going to benefit from this type of procedure?
Yeah. Putting things in terms of clear, maybe clear pain points and clear.
Yeah, it's a problem solution type thing. Like, I've got this problem. Can it help me? And yes, it can. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. And that's a fundamental, and I've learned this in business, you've got to make it real simple, and you've got to talk in a language where people think. How do people think? Well, I'm wearing these progressive readers that I'm wearing right now because I'm having issues with not so much distance, but close up. And these glasses solve that for me.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, it's bringing back to the practices that, yes, the doctor wants to be involved with the content for their website, but the doctor also has that, they think in terms of this higher level. Yep. And I think that everyone is going to understand the meaning of all that. And that's not the case. So you need to have someone take a step back and say, okay, this is not going to read for an average individual. I'm not going to understand it. Right. So you have to put it back into the basics.
Yeah. Nobody cares if you're using the Mark 23XZ camera to assess diabetic retinopathy. Just to give like
tell me what it's going to do for me.
Yeah.
You can tell me what you're going to use, but tell me what it's going to do for me.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, Brandi, I could talk to you for a long time, and I think I have a sense that we've only scratched the surface of your knowledge and skills here in the healthcare world. But thanks for sharing these tidbits with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Mike.
How can people get in touch with you if they just want to chat with you or get to know you or ask you further questions?
Sure. They can go to my website. It's BMBiz Consulting, so BMBIZ Consulting.com, or they can call me at 303. I'm sorry. Let me excuse that. 720-217-3655.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, please reach out to Brandi. She's wonderful. She's a wonderful resource. And I want to thank her for being on the show today. That this brings us to a close of another episode of Healthcare Leadership Live. I hope that you've gotten some valuable insights that you can implement right away in your clinic to foster growth and efficiency in your business. The journey of clinical business and leadership in healthcare is a continuous one. And so I'm going to continue offer shows like this with awesome guests like Brandi, with tips that you can take and apply in your business. So thanks for tuning in. Now go out there and lead with confidence.
Thanks, Mike.